here and investing some time with us and talking about these things. I wondered if you might take a deep breath, take a step back. This is something that you are clearly passionate about, something that you clearly believe in. I wonder if you might tell us kind of what that North Star is. And I know you've said it many times here, but I wondered if you might say it again, kind of why are you so passionate about this? Who is this going to help, and how is it going to make a difference to that person?
Thank you for that opportunity, Congressman. I'm passionate about this because too many people are left behind. The costs are too high, and the very people who are left behind are the people who can't afford to be left behind. Right. So the less you have, the more you pay within our current financial system, and the more you need to depend on digital money and free or very low-cost services to move your money around, the less access you have. And so we believe that advancing technology and building the ability for people with a simple $40 smartphone and a basic data plan to have access to digital money services would be a huge progress for many people who need it the most.
Right. Well, certainly the fields of Indiana are far from Silicon Valley, but that is exactly something that they can sympathize with. The feeling as though they are on the outside of the financial system or marginally hanging on to the financial system, or that the costs of using the financial system are very high to them. That's something that I hear every day all the way across the district, and it's something that's really important to them. This committee over a number of years has done a lot of great work in trying to right-size some of the regulatory framework, trying to help participants get into the market, trying to enable and empower those Hoosiers or Americans and those around the world that you mentioned as well. So if the architecture of this is to be a transaction-oriented platform, right, tell me a little bit how that differs from a cryptocurrency, right? Because this is really a digital currency versus a cryptocurrency, and the architecture is very different. I wanted to talk about that for a second.
Congressman, there are two parts that are different.
Yes.
The first one is really the digital currency itself, because it is backed one for one with a very stable reserve that will confer stability to the digital currency.
So that when you pay something, right, you know what the value is that you're paying, and all the stories about cryptocurrencies on, gosh, I paid for my pizza with this and I could be a billionaire today if only it were worth that then, right? So designed for stability in the system to ease transaction flow.
Correct. This is one. And two, the way that the technology has been built and the blockchain has been designed for speed and scale, so that it can meet the demands of the large community that we hope to serve one day.
Right. And so, but the fundamental difference in the architecture, and again, I won't purport to be a technology expert, is that this is not a permissionless system, right, in the sense that it's peer-to-peer, right? This will go through a central clearinghouse that says XYZ individual owns Libra because they are in this register. They can access it, but you have to be a permissioned corporation to access it or a permissioned member to access that database. Is that right?
It is partially right, Congressman. The blockchain is a permissioned but open blockchain, and as a result, you don't need to be a member to be able to build services or products on top of the blockchain.
Truth, right? You don't to build services that on top of, but you can't go in and make changes to the ledger itself, right? That requires permission.
Congressman, there's no central body that actually decides what can be added to the blockchain. The way that the consensus algorithm that is used works is that a transaction is proposed, and then as long as 2/3 of the nodes approve of that transaction being added to the ledger, it is added to the ledger.
Right, which is different though than a pure peer-to-peer technology, right?
That is correct, Congressman, because it uses a consensus algorithm.
And I guess what I'm getting to is this is a different type of asset/current that looks and feels a lot more like a currency and should be regulated more like a currency, right? As though it is transacting business, right? Where there is a central place at which we can do AML work, right? We can do other pieces. That's very different than a cryptocurrency, and I guess maybe haphazardly or maybe in a C- way, I'm trying to draw that distinction so that individuals understand that this is different than a pure peer-to-peer network that has no ability to do that by virtue of its design, but the architecture that you've thoughtfully proposed here, not put in place, but thoughtfully proposed, has that central piece where we can do that very work, right? Because the goal of AML, right, is to deny access to the financial system by nefarious actors, right? We have the ability to do that here that we wouldn't otherwise have the ability to do in a pure peer-to-peer architecture. Is that true or untrue?
Congressman, yes, and that's why we took the permissioned approach to
Correct.
start with, so that we can have trusted parties run nodes to start.
And I sincerely appreciate how that architecture reflects the North Star
gentleman's
that
time
you
has
first started
expired.
talking about. Thank you, Mr. Kukas.